England gave absolutely everything. It was one of those bowling displays, without wanting to be too critical, where everyone would have just had their hands on the hips going, what's going on here?
The fielding can really set the tone for the side.
That feeling of dropping a catch. Jamie Smith is quite a calm character, doesn't give away a huge amount on the field, put his hands on his head, like turn around in absolute devastation.
It was all doom and gloom on the radio, 290 for 3.
Glenn McGrath, Dizzy Gillespie and Damien Fleming are just lying on a couch, like chatting bowling. For an hour we'd bowled really bad balls, and I just said, in all seriousness, I reckon England bowled more bad balls in this last hour than you three did in your whole career.
Can everyone see Broady and David Warner enjoying their time in Australia? Hi everyone, welcome back. It's been a long, hot day in Brisbane for England. 5 drop catches costing them a little bit. Broady, what have you made of today?
I actually didn't think necessarily it was the 5 drop catches that was the most disappointing thing of the day. It was actually the bowling. The bowling, it was almost like the bowlers looked a little bit short of match practice, a long break in between the two games. We know how different it is bowling in nets compared to bowling in the middle, but of course the drop catches don't help, and how they went. So it's Travis Head first of up, Jofra Archer bowled a beauty, bit of extra bounce, and Jamie Smith, it just sort of rose on him a little bit, and he managed to drop it. He was unlucky that one first or second slip didn't get hold of it, and that was the first one. And actually England had held the game a little bit by then. Head was on 3 or 4, and it was almost like that deflated the boys a little bit. It was almost like the bowlers got frustrated that a catch had gone down, particularly Travis Head, who's so much been talked about him over the last 10 days. And I think we just lost our focus a bit in that bit of time. Started bowling a bit short and wide, letting them clip off the hips, and the Aussies got really moving. We leaked some runs after that first drop catch. So that was probably, I wouldn't say necessarily the biggest of the day, because Travis Head didn't go on and make a huge amount of runs. He got 30, but it just felt like it zapped the energy out the group a little bit. And Jamie Smith looked horrified. You know, it's a horrible position to be in as a keeper, particularly with Travis Head being a key player. So that was number one. And there were 5 in the day, a couple late in the day, and I have empathy towards that because it's been belting hot here in Brisbane today. The lights are on, pink ball. We know what the Gabba seats are like. They're all very multicoloured and different. So it can be quite difficult to pick up the pink ball. And Bryden Cast dropped an absolute sitter at extra cover off Jofra Archer with 10 minutes to go. That was Michael Nisa. So he's still in, so that might be costly. And Alex Carey got dropped first ball by Ben Duckett in the gully. Again, very, very catchable. Duckett was actually guilty of 2 drop catches, but the second one was quite a difficult chance. And then Jamie Smith again. Actually, sorry, Jamie Smith didn't drop the catch off Alex Carey later in the day. It was actually Joe Root had to dive to his right at first slip, but Jamie Smith sort of did the whole fake left foot, like his balance was on the wrong side. It was definitely the wicket keeper's catch, but it's so tricky when your balance has gone and you can't force yourself to get left. But England gave absolutely everything today. Their skill was probably lacking with the ball, if we're being critical, but you watched them walk off at the end of the field and they were pouring with sweat, absolutely exhausted. Actually, I've not missed playing, I've not missed batting, bowling. I've missed that feeling. I've missed that feeling of leaving your heart and soul on the pitch, having given absolutely everything for your team. And you know, Ben Stokes virtually had full body cramps at the end. So I understand why there were drop catches late in the day, because they were pretty knackered. But England have no right to be in this game from how they've performed today. Australia could easily be 400 for 4, but they found a way to get back in it, and that's due to the character of the group.
Yeah, it's delicately poised actually, isn't it? From us listening on the radio at 1.290 for 3, it felt very doom and gloom for England, and then suddenly those couple of quick wickets, Green giving himself room, and then Will Jacks pulling off a spectacular catch, having talked about the missed opportunities. But let's dive into drop catches. I think it is the worst feeling for any cricketer. It's absolutely horrible. You know, if you're batting or bowling, it's more of that individual element when you sort of let yourself down or you get a first ball or something like that. But, you know, the drop catch, letting down your teammates, letting down the side, the bowler who's putting all that effort in, it's horrible. And no one means to drop them. And you can guarantee England will have trained incredibly hard. Jamie Smith's very diligent with all his practice. And unfortunately, sometimes, you may be a lapse in concentration. It may be something that you just cannot explain. I dropped Marnus Labuschagne in the last Ashes series in the day-night test, late in the day. He's on 90-odd, second new ball. Jimmy nicked him off, not too dissimilar to the one Smith dropped this morning, actually probably even easier than that. And it's hit my gloves and gone down, and that sort of shock and horror of like, oh my God, what have I just done? And it's in front of everyone watching, millions around the world watching, and there's no place to hide as a wicketkeeper. It's an awful, awful feeling. But you have these moments, sometimes, what has just happened? Where is that? And you sometimes can't explain it. And there's other times where you might be keeping, and you feel your weight get in the wrong position or something happens, but they play a miss and you fumble it and it doesn't cost you. Moments like this in the Ashes, this is the most intense series, the biggest talked about series. Any little thing like that or big thing as a drop catch just gets magnified, and it's horrible to deal with as a player. I remember being sat in the dressing room in Adelaide, head in hands, and Jimmy comes past me, sort of taps me on the leg like, it's all right, mate. But that just doesn't help. It's just horrible. There's no way of fixing it, really. So he'll be really disappointed with that. And as you say, the fielding can really set the tone for the side. You mentioned how much effort the boys have put in. There's no doubting that. The skill may not quite have been to the level they would have wanted, but fielding is always that thing you feel like you can control the most. It's your space. There's 11 of you out there working together as a team. And you're right, if that chance does go down early, it can, you talked about momentum a lot. It can stutter that or gift it back to the opposition. And so, it's a horrible, horrible feeling. There's a few reasons. It may be lack of concentration or just something happened. You don't pick it up, as you mentioned. It's obviously been difficult to pick up the ball, but England will be disappointed.
But Jose, you mentioned that feeling of dropping a catch. Jamie Smith is quite, what's the right word of saying it? Calm character, not emotionless. Maybe he doesn't give away a huge amount on the field. The last drop catch that actually Joe Root had to dive full stretch to his right at first slip. Alex Carey advanced on Gus Atkinson, little fine nick. Jamie Smith off balance, went through the gap, 4 runs. And then the next ball, as so often happens in cricket, Alex Carey then, next ball, crunched it through the covers for 4. And Jamie Smith put his hands on his head, like turn around in absolute devastation. I've not seen him show that sort of emotion on a cricket field. And it's stressful when you drop catches, and particularly when you know that it's such an important time in the game. And there were, if I look at the Ben Duckett one to Alex Carey first ball, actually as the most important little chance, because England were dead and buried. Honestly, they were bowling both sides of the wicket. Carter had 11 overs for 95, just could not stop the scoring, and came on and bowled some bouncers to try and sort of get a little bit of comfort in the game, really put some fielders on the boundary and get the ball going to one area. And Cam Green backed away, tried to slice it through the offside, got bowled. Alex Carey comes in and gloves one straight up to gully, first ball, and Duckett dives forward and it just doesn't go in the hands, just doesn't stick. And Alex Carey is now 30 odd, 40 not out, really. So he's someone who could take the game away from England tomorrow. And that felt a big moment because England had no right to be in the game, honestly. It was one of those bowling displays, without wanting to be too critical, where everyone would have just had their hands on their hips going, what's going on here? Over pitching, dragging down, wide, then a clip off the hip. It was just looked like the bowlers were struggling for a bit of rhythm, struggling to feel their way into the game. Any fielding sort of position Ben Stokes tried to put in, they'd then bowl the other side and it would go for 4. So it was a really, it was one of those sort of, I actually went out to the back of the commentary box. It's quite cool. In the commentary positions, you get a real feel for the game in the corridors, because you just wander to go and get a water, and suddenly Glenn McGrath, Dizzy Gillespie and Damien Fleming are just lying on a couch, like chatting bowling. And I walked past them, and there was a little period where for an hour we'd bowled really bad balls that were just leaking for 4, and the Aussies weren't having to try that hard. And I just said, in all seriousness, I reckon England bowled more bad balls in this last hour than you 3 did in your whole career. Expecting in England, everyone going, nah, that's not the case. They just went, yeah, no, I probably agree with that. all of them. Yeah, we would never have bowled as many bad balls as that. But you get a real sense for the feeling of the game in the corridors of the commentary box, because there's so much experience floating around, and everyone was thinking this game's going away from England at a fast rate. Stokesy was 11 overs for 70, I think, and Carsey 95, and they just couldn't stop it. And then Australia made that mistake. Green, terrible shot. Smith in the same over tries to take one on. Will Jacks takes an absolute specky, like an absolute beauty. If you haven't seen that, you have to go and find that and watch it. And then the game flipped. The Barmy Army are suddenly up. The Aussie crowd are quiet, and it gave England a bit of a sniff. In all honesty, Australia could have put this game to bed, and we'd be forever in pain about day 2s of this Ashes series. But England are still somehow in the fight. It was certainly when Smith and Labuschagne were going, I was thinking, well, they're just going to bat through till the twilight tomorrow. Stark's going to have a brand new ball and we'll be 40 for 5 and it's test match over. So England have given themselves a chance, try and get 4 wickets in the first hour tomorrow, bat for 3 hours in the daytime and get that ball old before the twilight comes.
It was all a bit doom and gloom. I was listening on the radio on the way back from my daughter's nativity play, so it feels like the start of the festive season here, but it was all doom and gloom on the radio. 290 for 3. As you mentioned, Smith and Labuschagne seemed to be booked in. And as you mentioned, England just couldn't quite hit the areas they wanted to and didn't have that control. And then that over you've just mentioned, 290 for 5. It always sounds stupid, doesn't it, when someone in the field says, put 2 on this, lads. And when you're not having a great day, you kind of don't believe it. But suddenly you do put 2 wickets on that score and you're right in the game. And the chances, as you mentioned, were there. And sort of a missed opportunity for both sides today, actually. With Australia,
big time.
No one going on and getting 100, everyone getting in, getting starts. And, they're renowned, aren't they, for when they get ahead, just keep chipping away, get further and further ahead and put big scores on the board, which they haven't managed to do. And then suddenly that 1 over flips everything in England's favour, but back to parity and an opportunity. And it felt like Australia could have been all out for about parity at the end of the day. So it's been a fascinating last couple of hours. And again, for England's efforts in terms of pure effort has sort of given them a bit of a chance. But should always sort of never, that defeatist, never give up kind of thing. Suddenly the game can change incredibly quickly, which the opportunities were there for both teams, which no one's completely grabbed it. But Aussie's got 40-run lead at the moment. Do you see, obviously, Nisa and Carey putting together a bit of partnership? When does that lead start to get a bit of a worry for you?
Anything over 80, I think you start to get a bit concerned. There's definitely some variable bounce in the pitch. There's some cracks, and it's been so hot here in Brisbane that the pitch is getting baked in the day, so the cracks are going to open up. They're not going to disappear. So batting last on the pitch is going to be hard work. So you want to try and minimise that gap as England. They won't be far off the new ball. I think maybe 7-8 overs. So if they can try and get to that pretty quickly and make breakthroughs. They've got Nisa, who looks like a nice player. Reminds me a bit like Chris Wokes, can strike a nice ball, can hang around. We know Mitchell Starc can do a bit of damage, and then you're into the tail enders. So England will have that focus tomorrow. Rest up, try and get as much sort of sleep, do all your recovery, get some food in.
I was just about to ask you, actually, when you've had a day like today as a bowler and as a team, more so as the bowler, what would you be doing on an evening tonight, and how would you sort of reset after a day like today, both physically and mentally?
Well, certainly under Stokesy's captaincy, what we do after a hard day in the field would he'd order a sort of a big takeaway like Deliveroo or whatever into his room. He usually had a bigger room than most as captain, and we'd have 2 physio beds come into his room with physio and Mark Saxby, the massage therapist, and bowlers would just rotate on the physio bed. Stokesy would put a film on. We'd have loads of food to sort of pile in, and then a couple of hours later everyone's getting treatment and people are just sort of falling asleep in different parts in Stokesy's room. That was how we sort of went about it when we'd had long days in the field, because you're then talking about the day a bit. Yes, you want to switch off from the cricket. That's why we put a film on, and you might be chatting about different things, but you're still going, if this happens tomorrow, we might try this, or what could I have done differently? Did anyone else struggle with the footholds today? Is there anything I can do? So you're having little micro meetings while you're getting a bit of bit of food in and some massage and treatment, and then you try and get as much sleep as you possibly can and then get on the bus tomorrow. I always used to find the day-night games are disgusting stuff, but yeah, it does seem to help the cramps, the old pickle juice. But I find the day-nighters quite hard because I wake up early in the morning. So even if I'm getting to bed at 1 a.m. or something after a day-nighter, I'm not getting my 8 hours kit because I just can't sleep through till 9 a.m. So I wasn't a big fan of playing day-night cricket because I just felt like I was then waking up in the morning just watching the clock ready to leave at midday or something. So I found the recovery, I couldn't shift my body clock in for 1 week and then flip it back to the following week for another red ball test match. But so physically can be quite demanding, and actually Brisbane, as you know, can be baking hot, humid, physically very draining, softer outfield because it's an AFL ground, running onto a harder pitch. So you don't want your bowlers going through and bowling 25, 30 in an innings because that will bite you in the fourth. And Jofra Archer today, to be fair to him, bowled a 7-over spell, first time since 2020, 5 years since he's bowled a 7-over spell, and he came back and finished the last half hour and got through it pretty well. It'll be sore tomorrow, but we've got to fire up for 4 more wickets.
Yeah, absolutely. The boys need a good rest and come back well tomorrow. Yesterday was all about one man, Joe Root. And have you managed to have a few words with him? Did you see him before play today?
I saw him as he walked in. Yeah, I was on the ground. Just sort of went over, gave him a hug, and said, "Oh, that was awesome, mate. Well done." I said to him, "Look, I saw a bit of footage. He wouldn't have seen it during a test match, but there was a bit of footage I saw online of his parents being filmed in the crowd. I think it was the Barmy Army actually, leading up to the 100, the nervous 90s. And I think when you see how parents react, you obviously don't see that when you're out in the middle. When you see how parents react, you see how much it sort of means to them. It was really special footage. So I said to him, try and find that after the test match and have a look. He complimented me on my suit. I went on the hottest day that I've had, I went for a woolen suit today. I was absolutely baking hot. And then I got in that situation with a light blue shirt that's then sweaty, so you can't take the jacket off. So then you're wearing the jacket and then you're stuck and you're getting hotter. And I was having to use an umbrella to hide from the sunshine at times today.
I've noticed you got changed before doing this.
I had to get changed. That suit got taken off quick. I was far too hot. That was designed for November in England, I think. So that was a mistake on my part. So, and then actually we had Matt Root and Helen Root on the show before the start of play and interviewed them about their feelings and how great it was to see Joe do his thing, and how Matt was batting with Joe when he was 7 years old. Playing club cricket, and Joe was telling him how to bat at that stage, so that was really nice to interview the parents, having what it's like. We've spent years and years with them in and around the changing room, and Matt Root singing his American Pie karaoke and boring us to death with that. So yeah, it was great to have them on the show and see the emotion of what it means to them. And what I think I mentioned this last night on the pod actually, what it really settled into me, how yes, the Barmy Army were up with Rootie's 100, but the Aussie crowd were all up clapping him, really respecting the greatness of the player. And that's what I love about Australia and playing in Australia and being here, is yes, they'll give you a bit of stick, quite a lot of stick at times, but they respect you as a player if you show quality and show passion and give it to them and fight back a little bit. And the Gabba, whatever it is, 45,000 people all gave Joe Root a massive round of applause yesterday. And there's a lot of love here for Joe Root. It's just the Western Australia that calls him Average Joe.
Yeah, as there should be. 40 test hundreds, It took me to sort of say that out loud, really, to think that is an unbelievable achievement, and just where he's at in the world game. And obviously to tick that one off yesterday was amazing. And I actually saw his dad being interviewed as well, saying, how do you celebrate your son's 40th test century? And he said a kebab and a bottle of wine. So
Jose, just before you move on, when he said that to me, I misheard him. I thought he said, how did Joe celebrate kebab and a bottle of red? And I thought, that's not great to say on telly, Matt. That's not going to go down that well. Fortunately, he'd said I celebrated with a kebab and a bottle of red. But yeah, I didn't follow up with that question anyway, because I thought he'd dropped his son in it.
He dropped his son in it, yeah. I'm sure he had a nice cold beer though. But it's been a great day for him, wasn't it? We've had some brilliant comments coming in. Amanda Cox, what a day for Ruti. I had to sit in the same spot and not move in the nervous 90s just in case. That was similar to me actually. When he was on 71, I didn't move from my dining room chair. Monty said, never has a player deserved 100 as much as Joe deserved that. Hopefully that's from Monty Panesar. And Samo said, as an Aussie, that Route 100 was an early Christmas present. Joe's such a classy bat, absolutely marvellous to watch when he's going. Great that he's got his ton in Oz to add to his record. He is the GOAT of English cricket. So keep those comments and questions coming in. Make sure you subscribe or follow wherever you get your podcasts. And let's all get a good rest and hope for a great day for England tomorrow. But just before we go, Broady, I know you've been busy in between test matches, and this has to be one of the highlights. Can everyone see Broady and David Warner enjoying their time in Australia? So get to Broady's Instagram, treat yourself to that, and we will take it away again tomorrow. So thank you, Broady. I thoroughly enjoyed watching that.
No comment.